The single candle on the small cake flickered, its flame dancing in the draft of the air conditioner. It was the only thing moving at my table. The other 4 chairs sat perfectly still, empty, their white napkins folded into crisp fans. I glanced at my phone, 7:48 p.m. The screen was dark, no new messages, no missed calls. I'd checked it 12 times in the last hour. My fingernail tapped against the glass screen. Tap, tap, tap. A nervous, angry rhythm that matched the dull ache spreading behind my ribs. The restaurant, the Everest Grill, was full. Laughter and the clinking of silverware echoed from the other tables, swirling around my island of silence. "Another glass of water, Miss Lynch?" I looked up. The waiter, a kind-faced man in his 50s, hovered nearby. His eyes were full of a pity that made my skin crawl. He glanced at the 4 empty place settings, then back to my untouched glass of Cabernet. "Just a few more minutes, please," I said, forcing a smile that felt like cracking porcelain. "They must be stuck in traffic." He nodded, but we both knew the truth. This was the 3rd time I'd asked for an extension. Traffic didn't last for an hour and 48 minutes, not even in downtown Dayton. I smoothed the front of my silk blouse, the deep emerald green one I'd bought just for tonight. It felt cool and expensive under my trembling fingers. I'd wanted to look the part of a CEO, a founder who had just, after 3 years of relentless, soul-crushing work, secured $1.2 million in venture capital for my ecotech startup, Viridian Apex. I'd sent the text to the family group chat 2 weeks ago. Big news to share, and it's my birthday. Dinner at the Everest Grill Thursday the 19th at 7 p.m. I'm booking for 5. Let me know. Silence. A week later, I sent a follow-up. "Hey, just confirming our reservation for Thursday. Really excited to see you all." More silence. Finally, yesterday morning. "Reservation is confirmed for 7 p.m. Hope everyone can make it." Not one single reply. Not from Mom, not from Dad, and certainly not from my brother, Thomas. My throat tightened. I took a sip of water, the ice cubes rattling against my teeth. This shouldn't hurt. It was a pattern, polished by decades of repetition. I remembered my 16th birthday. Dad had taken Thomas on a character-building fly fishing trip to Montana. "He needs this, Fiona," Dad had explained, ruffling my hair. "Boys need investment. You just need stability." My stability had apparently meant co-signing for Thomas's first disastrous business venture, a custom motorcycle shop when I was 23, drowning in my own student debt. When he defaulted 6 months later, I'd covered the $18,000 loan myself to keep my credit from collapsing. Dad's response? A distracted pat on my back while he helped Thomas install a new exhaust system on a bike he couldn't afford. The waiter returned, his expression final this time. "Ma'am, the kitchen will be closing in 30 minutes. Shall I?" He didn't need to finish. He meant, "Shall I clear away the evidence of your loneliness?" "Yes," I whispered, the fight draining out of me. "You can bring the check." As he began gathering the silverware and the pristine, untouched wine glasses, I stared at the single flickering candle. I was a 30-year-old woman, a successful founder, and I was still that 16-year-old girl, waiting for a family that was never going to show up. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. Excuse me. The voice was deep and warm, cutting through my fog of humiliation. I looked up from my phone expecting to see the waiter again. Instead, a man stood beside my table. He was tall, maybe in his late 60s, with a sharp suit that looked custom-tailored and kind eyes behind thick-rimmed glasses. His hair was a distinguished salt and pepper. "I don't mean to intrude," he said, gesturing with a polite open hand toward the cake, "but I couldn't help but notice the candle. It seems a celebration is in order." I tensed, bracing for more pity. It was. My family was supposed to join me." "Ah." He nodded, a flicker of understanding in his gaze, but no pity, just acknowledgement. "They are running exceptionally late." "They're not coming," I said, the words tasting like ash. "They didn't reply to my messages." The man held my gaze for a moment. Then, if you'll forgive my boldness, they are fools. He hesitated as if weighing his next words. Would you mind if I joined you? Just for a moment. A birthday, even one with tardy guests, shouldn't be spent alone. Something in his direct, respectful manner made me nod. Please, I'm Fiona Lynch. Arthur, he said, sliding into the chair across from me. He placed a worn leather briefcase on the floor beside him. It's a pleasure, Fiona. Now you must blow out that candle before it burns down to the icing. I took a small, shaky breath and blew. The flame vanished, leaving a thin trail of gray smoke. Happy birthday, Fiona, he said, smiling. The waiter can bring another plate. I can't let you eat that entire cake by yourself. Doctor's orders. I found myself smiling back, a real smile this time. Thank you, Arthur. The waiter, looking relieved, quickly brought a second plate and fork. So, Arthur said, taking a small bite of the cake, this is excellent. What great news were you planning to share with your foolish family? You're very direct, I said, surprised by his forwardness. I find it saves time, he replied, his eyes twinkling, and I am genuinely curious. You have the look of someone who has just accomplished something difficult. I hesitated, then figured, why not? I just closed my Series A funding round, $1.2 million. Arthur's eyebrows shot up. That is not big news. That is monumental news. Congratulations. What's the company? Viridian Apex. We develop and manufacture biodegradable alternatives to single-use plastics from algae composites. It's been my entire life for 3 years. Viridian Apex, he repeated, rolling the name over. I've read about you in the Dayton Business Journal. You're the one who developed the new bonding patent. That's brilliant work, Fiona. I stared at him. He knew my company. He knew the patent. My family didn't even know what I did. They just called it Fiona's little computer thing. You've heard of it? Of course. I'm a consultant. I specialize in helping founders navigate scaling. What you've done, taking a concept from a lab to a multi-million-dollar valuation, is remarkable. They truly don't know what they're missing. For the next hour, we talked. He didn't just listen. He asked intelligent questions. He wanted to know about my supply chain, my burn rate, my plans for the new capital. It was the most engaged, supportive conversation I'd had in my entire life. As he signaled for the check and insisted on paying for it over my protests, he leaned forward. Fiona, may I offer you a piece of advice I've learned over a very long career? I nodded, hanging on his every word. Stop waiting for them, he said softly, his kind eyes firm. Stop measuring your achievements by their applause. They will never give you what you need because they don't have it to give. Your validation isn't in that empty chair. It's in that $1.2 million check. It's in the patent. It's in you. He handed me his business card. Arthur Pendleton. If you ever need an advisor who actually shows up, give me a call. I walked out of the Everest Grill that night, not with the sting of rejection, but with the warm, unfamiliar glow of being truly seen. I made a new wish. Not for my family to change, but for me to finally, truly, stop needing them to. 3 years later, I stood on a stage in a packed auditorium, a spotlight hot on my face. The Viridian Apex logo, a sleek green spiral, glowed on the massive screen behind me. And so, by restructuring our supply chain to source algae locally, we not only cut production costs by 30%, but we also achieved full carbon neutrality 2 years ahead of schedule. The applause was deafening. My company was no longer a startup. It was a $35 million enterprise, and I was a keynote speaker at the Ohio Tech Summit. After the Q&A, I headed backstage, my assistant Eliza handing me a bottle of water. That was incredible, Fiona. The Forbes reporter wants a follow-up interview, and Mr. Harmon's office called to confirm dinner tonight. Perfect. Text my driver and let's go over the quarterly reports on the way, I said, loosening the mic pack. Life was different. My condo in Bellbrook had a view of the skyline. My work was my passion, and it was succeeding beyond my wildest dreams. And Arthur? He'd become more than an advisor. He was my mentor, my confidant, and the closest thing to a father I'd ever had. We talked almost daily. My success was built on the foundation of that night at the Everest Grill. I had, as Arthur advised, stopped waiting. My relationship with my family had dwindled to polite, shallow holiday texts. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. It was cleaner that way. I slid into the back of my town car, opening my laptop. The ache of that lonely birthday was a distant scar, a reminder of a past I had systematically built a new life to escape. I was stable, I was successful, and I was finally at peace. Or so I thought. I was in my office, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows, when my personal phone rang. Not my work phone, my personal one. The number only a handful of people had. The screen flashed. Mom. My stomach clenched. We hadn't actually spoken, in almost a year. I'd sent flowers for her birthday. She'd sent a text. The ex. I let it ring 3 times, then took a breath and answered. Hi, Mom. Fiona, honey, I was just thinking about you. Her voice was a fountain of sugary sweetness, a tone I hadn't heard since she was trying to get me to co-sign Thomas's lease. I saw your picture in some magazine. We are just so proud of you. Thank you, Mom. I've been busy. Oh, I know. Listen, sweetheart, your father and I were talking, and we have the best idea. I leaned back in my chair, my pen tapping on my desk. Here it comes. You know, your company is so successful, but Viridian Apex is a little cold, don't you think? We were thinking, what about a new brand? Something with a personal touch. Lynch Legacy Naturals. It has such a ring to it. Your brand, our family name. A real collaboration. I stared at the phone. A collaboration? After 3 years of silence? Mom, that's not really how branding works. Viridian Apex is a B2B tech company. Oh, details, think about it, honey. It would be the perfect time for a real family project. We've always been your biggest supporters, you know. The lie was so blatant, so audacious, it almost took my breath away. Mom, I have to go. I'm in a meeting. Of course. Think about it. We'll talk soon. Love you. She hung up before I could reply. I dropped the phone on my desk as if it were contaminated. Biggest supporters. The words echoed in the silent, expensive office. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Thomas. Hey sis, big news. I'm getting married to my fiancée, Janine. Pretty serious. Anyway, I've got a new import-export venture, very low risk, high reward. Saw you're doing well. The team needs a primary sponsor. Just $300,000 to get it off the ground. Great exposure for your little company. Let me know by Friday so I can tell my partners. I read the text twice. Not congratulations. Not how are you. A demand for $300,000. I placed the phone face down. The old familiar ache was back, radiating from my chest. They were back. The peace was over. That night, I couldn't sleep. The dual-pronged attack from my family felt coordinated, calculated. They smelled money, and they were closing in. I poured a glass of wine and went to my home office. I pulled out a box labeled Old Files from the back of the closet. For the next 3 hours, I dug. I found the carbon copy of the cashier's check for Thomas's motorcycle shop loan. I found the bank statements showing 6 straight months of rent payments I'd made for his apartment after he found himself and quit his job. I found the $5,000 wire transfer receipt for emergency boat repairs after he'd crashed Dad's prized fishing boat. I opened a new password-protected spreadsheet. I titled it Family Ledger. Line by line, I documented every dollar. June 2015, Thomas defaulted loan, motorcycle, $18,240.50. Nov 2016, APR 2017, Thomas rent, the lofts, $9,600. Boxog 2018, Dad boat repair, crashed by T, $5,150. Jan 2019, Thomas legal fees. Bar incident, $3,500 in deck 2019. Mom credit card paid off. 722 code, on and on it went. Small loans I'd forgotten. Gas money that was never repaid. Co-pays for ER visits. The spreadsheet swelled, the final cell at the bottom glowing with a sickening total. $51,700.50 now. I stared at the number. This wasn't about being petty. This wasn't about getting the money back. I knew I never would. This was about truth. This was my armor. The next time they came to me with their hands out, with their saccharine lies about being my biggest supporters, I wouldn't just have my anger. I would have the facts. I would have this spreadsheet. I saved the file to a private encrypted folder on my personal cloud drive. A drive only I had the password to. No more, I whispered to the empty room. This time, I'm ready. I woke up the next morning feeling lighter, armed. I made coffee, my mind already running through the polite, professional no I would deliver to my family. I'd email them the spreadsheet, not as an attack, but as a firm, factual record. While I appreciate your new interest in my work, a financial collaboration isn't possible. As you can see from the attached, our family's financial history is already quite one-sided. I consider this $51,700 a gift, but it's a gift I can't afford to repeat. Clean, final, unarguable. I opened my laptop to review the file one last time. I navigated to my cloud drive to the encrypted private folder. It was empty. I blinked. No. I refreshed the page. Still empty. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tried the search bar. Family Ledger XLSX. No results found. I logged out and logged back in. Nothing. I checked the trash folder. Empty. I checked the activity log. FamilyLedger.xlsx was permanently deleted by unknown user at 2:17 a.m. Access granted to unknown user from IP address 192.168.41 at 2:16 a.m. I stared at the IP address. It wasn't mine. I frantically ran a trace. The IP was masked, but the origin pinged to a public node in Thomas's neighborhood. He hadn't just guessed my password. He must have installed a keylogger on my personal laptop the last time he'd visited, years ago, on the off chance he might need it. The old family cloud account? He must have had access all along. My phone buzzed. A new text from Thomas. Saw your pathetic little spreadsheet on the old family cloud, full of lies. Deleted it for you so you don't embarrass yourself. You owe us fee. Don't forget it. $300K by Friday. I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking. My armor was gone. My one piece of concrete, undeniable proof destroyed. He'd been spying on me, waiting. And now he knew exactly what I thought of them. He knew, and he'd struck first. I wasn't ready. I was a fool, and now I had nothing but my word against theirs. The call came from my assistant, Eliza, at 11:05 a.m. I was in a high-stakes meeting with my distribution team, planning our European launch. Fiona, Eliza's voice was tight and professional over the intercom. Your mother and brother are in the lobby. They say it's an urgent family matter. My head snapped up. The entire conference room, filled with my top executives, fell silent. Tell them I'm in a meeting, Eliza. Ask them to wait, or I'll call them back this evening. A pause. They insist, Fiona. They say they've brought a surprise, and they've brought a cake. A cake. The word hit me like a stone. A public performance. I felt a hot flush of rage creep up my neck. Give me 5 minutes, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I stood, smoothing my blazer. Gentlemen, apologies. A brief interruption. Grant, please continue with the projections. I walked out of the conference room, my heels clicking sharply on the polished concrete floor. The open plan office was quiet, but I could feel dozens of eyes on me. I turned the corner into the reception area, and there they were. Mom, in a brand new cashmere coat, was holding a bakery box tied with a bright red ribbon. Thomas stood beside her, hands in his pockets, smirking at my lead designer. Fiona, darling, Mom trilled, her voice echoing in the high-ceilinged lobby. She rushed forward and pulled me into a suffocating hug, kissing the air next to my cheek. Surprise! We were in the neighborhood and we just had to stop by and congratulate our brilliant CEO. Thomas strolled over. Nice place, Fee. Must be costing you a fortune. He tapped the custom-built reception desk. Real marble? My receptionist looked on, her eyes wide. 2 of my engineers had stopped, coffee mugs in hand, to watch the spectacle. Mom! Thomas. This is a surprise, I said, forcing my voice to remain level. You should have called. I'm in the middle of our quarterly review. Oh, nonsense, Mom laughed, waving her hand dismissively. We're family. We don't need an appointment. We brought your favorite, red velvet. We can share it with your staff. She was performing for my employees, painting the picture of the loving, supportive family, the family who brings cake. How thoughtful, I said, my smile feeling like a wound. Let's take this into the small conference room, shall we? I'm sure my team is very busy. I turned and led the way, acutely aware of them following me, the bakery box held aloft like a trophy. They hadn't come to celebrate. They'd come to stake their claim. I slid the glass door of the conference room shut, the thud of the seal cutting off the sound of the office. The room was small, dominated by a single walnut table. All right, I said, dropping the polite facade. What is this? What are you doing here? Mom's smile faltered, replaced by a look of practiced hurt. Fiona, what a tone. We came to see you, to celebrate. You've been so distant. Distant? I've been busy building this, I said, gesturing to the office beyond the glass. For 3 years, without a single call from either of you. Now suddenly you're here with cake? Don't be so dramatic, Thomas scoffed, slumping into one of the expensive leather chairs. We're family, we're here now. And Mom's right, we should collaborate. The Lynch legacy thing is a great idea. And you, I said, turning to him, my voice dropping. You need $300,000. Is that what this cake is? A down payment? Mom gasped. Fiona, he's your brother. He's getting married. And I'm supposed to fund his wedding and his low-risk venture? Like I funded his motorcycle shop and his rent and Dad's boat? Thomas's smirk vanished. He sat up. You keep bringing that up. That was a long time ago. Was it? Or was it just yesterday that you were in my private cloud deleting my files? Mom looked confused. What is she talking about, Thomas? She's crazy, Thomas said, his face flushing red. I don't know what she's talking about. She's making up lies, Mom, just like that stupid spreadsheet. You admitted it, I hissed. You texted me. I texted that you were lying. Success has made you paranoid, Fiona, and cold. Cold? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. No, I'm just not stupid anymore. I'm not the family bank, this collaboration, the $300,000. The answer is no. Mom's expression hardened. The mask of the loving mother dissolved, revealing the cold, calculating woman beneath. I see. So that's it. You get a little bit of money, a fancy office, and you forget the people who raised you. After everything we've done for you. What? I interrupted, my voice shaking with a sudden white-hot rage. What exactly have you done? Did you support me? Did you invest in me? Did you co-sign my first business loan when the bank said I was too risky? No, I did that alone. I pointed to the door. Now get out. You can't talk to me like that, Mom whispered, her face pale. I just did. This is my company, my workplace. You are not welcome here unless you are invited. Eliza, I called, pressing the intercom, please escort my guests to the elevator. Thomas stood up, knocking his chair back. This isn't over, Fiona. You think you're better than us? You're not. You're just a greedy, selfish... Eliza opened the door, a security guard just behind her. Thomas snapped his mouth shut. Mom grabbed the cake box from the table. You'll regret this, Fiona. Family is family, and you're throwing yours away. They stalked out, a cloud of indignation and entitlement following them. I stood in the glass room, my hands trembling as I watched my entire team watch them go. My phone buzzed, a new text from Thomas. You made a big mistake. You'll be sorry. The first call came that evening as I was nursing a much-needed glass of wine and staring at the Dayton skyline. It was my Aunt Clara. "Fiona, dear, I just saw Thomas's post. Is everything all right? Your mother sounded so upset when I spoke to her." "What post?" I asked, my stomach turning to ice. "Oh, on social media, dear, on Facebook. He wrote, well, it's just very sad." I hung up, my fingers fumbling as I opened the app. I hadn't looked at it in months. Thomas's profile picture, him on a boat, grinning, was at the top of my feed. His new status, posted an hour ago, already had 42 likes and 15 comments. It's sad when your own blood cares more about money and spreadsheets than their own family. Some people get a little success and forget where they came from. Just remember who was there for you before the fancy office. Blood should mean something. The comments were a waterfall of poison. "Thinking of you, Thomas." So true. "Your family is everything. Shame on her." "I can't believe that, after all your parents did for her." My own cousins, old high school friends, my mother's church group, they were all liking it, all commenting, all taking his side. He'd spent the afternoon calling everyone, spinning his story. I was the cold, greedy daughter who had turned her back on her loving, supportive family. My phone lit up again, and again. Texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. "Fee, what's going on? Your brother's post is... Yikes. Is it true you kicked your mom out of your office? Hey, just checking in. You okay?" He'd done it. He'd taken the fight public. He was painting me as the villain, and because he was the charming, irresponsible screw-up and I was the quiet, driven one, they believed him. I sank onto my couch, the wine glass heavy in my hand. He hadn't just deleted my proof. He'd created his own. I spent the next morning in damage control. I called Aunt Clara back. "Auntie, it's a private family matter that Thomas chose to make public. It's not what it seems. I'd appreciate it if you'd respect my privacy." I posted one and only one public reply. Not on his post, but on my own feed. True family is built on mutual support and respect, not one-way obligations. I wish everyone that kind of love. It was dignified. It was vague. It was the only thing I could say. The likes trickled in, mostly from my work colleagues and Arthur, but the damage was done. My family's narrative was louder and juicier. I got to the office determined to bury myself in the European launch. I would not let them win. I would not let them distract me. I was mid-call with our German logistics partner when Eliza buzzed me, her voice strained. "Fiona, line 2. It's Jacob Harmon's executive assistant. She says it's urgent. He wants to speak with you immediately." Jacob Harmon, my lead investor, the head of Kestrel Capital. My blood ran cold. "Patch him through, now." I clicked over. "Jacob, good morning. I was just about to send you the new projections." "Fiona." His voice was clipped, professional, and ice cold. "I just received a very disturbing phone call from a man claiming to be your brother." My breath hitched. "Jacob, what did he say?" "He said a great many things. That you are mentally unstable, that you're having some kind of breakdown, that you're embezzling funds from Viridian Apex to pay off old family debts. He warned me, and I quote, to get my money out before she burns the whole thing to the ground." I gripped the edge of my desk. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't a smear campaign. This was sabotage. This was an attack on my company, my life's work. "Jacob, It is a vicious, calculated lie," I stammered, my mind racing. "It's a family dispute. He's trying to extort money from me." "Is he?" Jacob's voice was flat. "Or is he a whistleblower? Right now, Fiona, I have an angry man telling me my investment is at risk, and I have you sounding flustered. I don't like flustered. I don't like family disputes. I like stability. I'm sending a forensic team to your office tomorrow." "A forensic team? An audit? Jacob, that's not necessary. It is now. Don't leave the city, and find a way to fix this. Immediately. The line clicked dead. I stared at the receiver. He'd done it. Thomas had actually done it. He'd crossed a line I never thought he'd dare. He hadn't just tried to hurt me, he'd tried to destroy me. I sat at my desk, my world tilting. An audit. Forensic. Jacob thought I was a thief. My reputation, my company, my entire future was dissolving. I had no proof. It was my word against Thomas's. He'd deleted the ledger. He'd poisoned the well. I had nothing. I buried my face in my hands, the panic a living thing clawing its way up my throat. My computer chimed. A new email. The sender was truthteller88aproton.me. The subject line was empty. My hand was shaking as I clicked it. The body of the email contained a single link to an anonymous file hosting site. No text, no explanation. This had to be a virus, a phishing attempt, but I clicked it anyway. What else did I have to lose? A download window popped up. Recording M4AE. I clicked play. At first it was just restaurant noise, clinking glasses, murmurs. Then a woman's voice, one I vaguely recognized. Janine, Thomas's fiancée. Janine, are you sure that was a good idea, Tommy? Calling her investor? That seems extreme. My heart stopped. Thomas. Laughs, a smug, ugly sound. Extreme? It was brilliant. You should have heard her. Jacob, no, please. She was pathetic. She thinks she can cut us out? After she built that whole company on our family's support? Janine. But did we support her? I mean, that spreadsheet you deleted. Thomas. That spreadsheet was a joke, a fantasy. I handled it, just like I handled her investor. He's sending auditors. By the time they're done, her board will have kicked her out. She'll be ruined. And then who will she come crawling back to? Us. She'll beg us to take her money. Trust me, Janine. I know my sister. You just have to break her first. Janine. I guess so. It just feels wrong. Thomas. It's not wrong. It's smart. Now, about the wedding centerpieces. The recording ended. I sat in stunned silence. Janine, a woman I'd met twice who I'd written off as shallow and materialistic, a woman I instinctively distrusted. She had recorded him. She had sent it to me. Her motives were a mystery. Was it a pang of conscience? Or was she smart enough to know that hitching her wagon to a self-destructing saboteur was a bad bet? I didn't care. I saved the file to 3 separate drives. I emailed it to my personal account. I had my proof. It wasn't a spreadsheet, it was a confession. I buzzed my assistant. Eliza, I said, my voice clear and cold as steel, get me a lunch reservation at the Everest Grill for 2, and get Jacob Harmon on the phone. Tell him I have something he needs to hear. The Everest Grill looked exactly the same hushed lighting, the same crisp white tablecloths. It was 1 p.m., and I sat across from Jacob Harmon. The irony of the location was so thick I could taste it. Jacob hadn't said a word since we sat down. He'd just nodded at the waiter for water and stared at me, his face a mask of cold displeasure. Jacob, I began, my voice even, I appreciate you meeting me. I told you this was a family dispute and an extortion attempt. I also told you I had no proof. That has changed. Fiona, I'm not here for he said, she said. My team is booked for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Unless you have a signed confession, I have something better. I placed my phone on the table between us. I'd already queued up the file. I pressed play. Jacob leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing as Thomas's voice filled the quiet space between us. She'll be ruined. And then who will she come crawling back to? Us. She'll beg us to take her money. You just have to break her first. I watched Jacob's face. It went from skeptical to rigid to a deep, dangerous red. His knuckles, wrapped around his water glass, were white. When the recording finished, he didn't speak for a full minute. He just stared at the phone. Finally, he looked up at me. His eyes were cold, but not with displeasure anymore. It was fury. That bastard, he said, his voice a low growl. He didn't just lie. He admitted to a deliberate, malicious attempt to sabotage a public company. That's a crime, Fiona. That's tortious interference. That's evil. Yes, I said. It is. He took a long, slow breath. The audit is canceled. I'll call my team myself. I am profoundly sorry, Fiona. I should have trusted your record, but this... I understand. You had to protect your investment. This goes beyond my investment. This is a personal attack on one of my founders, on my partner. He signaled the waiter. We'll be ordering the best bottle of wine you have. He looked back at me. Now, you've handled the external threat. Kestrel Capital stands with you, 100%. But what are you going to do about the internal one? About your family? I'm working on it, I said, picking up my menu. Good. He nodded, his composure restored. Because this can never, ever happen again. Your company is on the verge of a global breakthrough. You don't have time for this vampirism. The rest of the lunch was all business. We talked projections, logistics, and expansion. The threat was over. The bomb had been defused. As we left, Jacob put a hand on my shoulder. You're tougher than I thought, Lynch. You handled this. Don't let them get in your head again. Build your walls. I'd won the war for my company, but I'd forgotten about the guerrilla campaign for my guilt. Having failed at public shaming and direct sabotage, my family regrouped, and they came back with a new weapon, nostalgia. A large, heavy box arrived at my condo. I opened it, and the smell of mothballs and old cardboard wafted out. Inside were our family photo albums, all of them. Mom had gone through them, placing yellow Post-it notes on dozens of photos. I opened one, a picture of me, age 5, missing my 2 front teeth, holding a sparkler. The note read, "Remember how you loved 4th of July? You always said family was the most important." Another, me at my high school graduation. "We were so proud of you, honey, our little scholar." It was a lie. They hadn't even been there. They were at one of Thomas's regional dirt bike races. I remembered standing alone in my cap and gown, searching the bleachers for them. The albums were an assault of curated false memories, a strategic attempt to rewrite history. Then came the texts from Mom. "Honey, I packed up all those old albums for you. It just made me cry seeing our happy family. I don't know how we got so broken. We miss you so much." From Thomas. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. The doctor said he needs to avoid stress. This whole thing is really hurting him, Fee. He just wants his family back together. From Dad, the man who never texted, "Your mother is heartbroken. I'm worried about her." It was coordinated. It was relentless. The wedding invitation for Thomas and Janine arrived. On the RSVP card, Mom had written in cursive, "Please come. It would mean the world to us and be the first step to healing our family." They were no longer demanding money. They were demanding my presence, my forgiveness, my capitulation. They were trying to make me feel so guilty for drawing a boundary that I would tear it down myself. I sat on my floor, surrounded by 30 years of photographic lies, the guilt thick and suffocating. It was working. "It's a textbook pincer movement," Arthur said, swirling the ice in his glass. I'd called him, my voice cracking, and he'd been at my condo in 20 minutes. Now he sat on my balcony, listening as I laid out the entire saga. The albums, the texts, the wedding invitation, the crippling guilt. "They've tried aggression, and it failed," he continued, looking out at the Bellbrook woods. "They've tried sabotage, and it failed, thanks to an unlikely guardian angel." "Janine," I said, still marveling at it. "I don't even know if I should thank her." "Don't. Her motives are her own. But now, your family is using their final weapon, the one you've been trained since birth to be defenseless against, emotional blackmail. They're framing your boundary as the attack." "It's working," I whispered, tracing the condensation on my own glass. "I feel awful. He's my brother. They're my parents. Maybe I should just go, just give in. What's the harm? What's the harm? Arthur turned to me, his kind eyes sharp. The harm is that you teach them that all your boundaries, all your no's, are just temporary obstacles. You teach them that if they just push hard enough, apply enough guilt, you will break. You're not just deciding about a wedding, Fiona. You're setting the terms for the rest of your life. He was right. So, what do I do? I asked. If I don't go, I'm the villain who tore the family apart over her brother's wedding. If I do go, I'm a doormat, and this all starts over again. Then you find a third way, Arthur said. You don't go on their terms. You go on yours. We spent the next hour strategizing, role-playing. What happens when Thomas pulls you aside to talk about his venture? Arthur asked. I tell him I'm busy. No, that's weak. It's an excuse. A strong answer is a statement. Thomas, today is about your wedding. We are not discussing business. Period. End of story. What about Mom? When she starts crying about healing, you say, Mom, I am here to celebrate. I am not here to relitigate the past. You don't engage. You don't defend. You just state your boundary. By the time he left, I had a plan. It wasn't about winning. It was about surviving. I sat down and drafted one final non-negotiable email to all three of them. Subject, the wedding. Mom, Dad, Thomas. Thank you for the invitation. I have decided to attend to celebrate Thomas and Janine's marriage. To ensure the day is focused on them and not on our recent disagreements, I will be attending under the following 3 conditions. These are not negotiable. 1. I will be bringing a guest, my friend and mentor, Arthur Pendleton. 2. I will be staying for the ceremony and reception for a maximum of 3 hours. I have an early commitment the next morning. 3. There will be absolutely no discussion of money, business, Lynch legacy, or sponsorships. Any attempt to do so will result in my immediate departure. I look forward to celebrating with you all under these terms. Best, Fiona. I read it over. It was cold. It was clear. It was perfect. I hit send before I could lose my nerve. The ballroom at the Biltmore Plaza Hotel was a sea of pastel silks and black tuxedos. A string quartet played softly. It was painfully lavish. Deep breaths, Fiona, Arthur murmured, his hand a steady, grounding presence on my elbow. He looked impeccable in a dark charcoal suit. I feel like I'm walking into a lion's den, I whispered. You are. But this time, you're not the prey. You're the tamer. Stick to the plan. We'd been there for 45 minutes. We'd sat through the ceremony. Thomas and Janine looked happy. As Janine walked down the aisle, her eyes met mine for a brief, flickering second. There was no malice in them, just a kind of nervous acknowledgement. I gave her a small, imperceptible nod. Thank you. Now at the reception, the circling began. Distant relatives, their eyes full of curiosity. Fiona, my goodness, look at you. We were so worried. Your mother told us you'd been under such stress. Hello, Aunt Clara. Lovely to see you. Yes, work has been intense. Arthur, this is my Aunt Clara. I deflected and introduced. Arthur was a master, charming them with small talk about the hotel's architecture, steering the conversation away from me. Then the first lion. Thomas appeared, champagne in hand. Fiona, you came. Congratulations, Thomas. Janine looks beautiful, I said, my voice neutral. You remember my friend Arthur? Thomas nodded at him, then turned back to me, lowering his voice. Listen, Fee, I'm glad you're here. It means a lot, and I've been thinking about that $300K. If you can just do $150K, I can make it work. Thomas. I cut him off, my voice quiet but firm, just as Arthur and I had practiced. Today is about your marriage. We are not discussing business. His face tightened. He wasn't used to this. He looked past me as if searching for our mother to back him up. "Fee, just listen for a second." "No," I said, not unkindly. "I'm not having this conversation. Go and enjoy your wedding." He stared at me, his jaw working. For a second, I thought he'd explode. Instead, he just gave a sharp, frustrated huff and stalked off toward the bar, one down. 20 minutes later, Mom found me. She'd been circling, and now she pounced, pulling me into an alcove near the enormous 7-tiered cake. "Darling," she whispered, her eyes already misting over. "I'm so glad you're here. It feels like we're healing. It's a beautiful wedding, Mom." "It is, isn't it?" She squeezed my arm. "That email, Fiona, it was so cold. It hurt me. It hurt your father. After all, we're family. We shouldn't need terms." Here it was, the guilt. "Mom," I said, gently removing her hand from my arm, "I am here to celebrate Thomas. I am not here to relitigate the past. I'm happy to be here right now, but I will not be made to feel guilty." Her mouth opened, then closed. The tears in her eyes dried up, replaced by a flicker of the old frustration. She was assessing me. She was seeing a new, hard surface she couldn't break. "Well," she said, straightening her posture, "you've certainly changed." "Yes, I have," I said. "Now, I believe they're about to cut the cake. We should join them." I walked back to Arthur. He raised an eyebrow. "Survive?" "Survive," I confirmed. We stayed for another hour. We ate our cake. We made polite conversation. Across the room, I saw Thomas watching me. He was talking to Dad, who was gesticulating angrily. Thomas just shook his head, looking resigned. He caught my eye, and then he did something I never expected. He raised his champagne glass just an inch, a small, reluctant, frustrated salute. It wasn't an apology. It was a surrender. "You win this round." I checked my watch. 9:45 p.m. 3 hours, Arthur," I murmured. "Time to go." We made our way to the exit, giving a final wave to Thomas and Janine. We didn't stop to say goodbye to my parents. As we stepped out into the cool night air, I took my first deep, easy breath in months. I hadn't just survived. I'd won. On my terms. 1 year later, the candles on my birthday cake flickered, but this time they weren't in a dark restaurant. They were in my own kitchen, on my marble island. The room was filled with laughter. Arthur stood beside me, his arm draped casually over my shoulder. My best friend Rebecca raised her wine glass. "To Fiona," Rebecca toasted, "who taught me that sometimes the best family is the one you build yourself. Happy birthday." To Fiona. The small group, my chosen family, cheered. My CFO, Michael, my assistant Eliza, and Arthur. There were no empty chairs, no anxious checking of my phone, no brittle, forced smile. My heart felt full, calm, and safe. I blew out the candles in one breath. "It's a far cry from the Everest Grill, isn't it?" Arthur murmured in my ear. "A different universe," I smiled back. Life had found its balance. Viridian Apex was launching in Asia. My relationship with my birth family was stable. It was cordial, and it was distant, managed by the boundaries I had built and refused to move. We had scheduled 30-minute phone calls every other Sunday. I'd attended Christmas dinner for 2 hours. Thomas and Janine were expecting, and he'd actually called to tell me the news without asking for money. We were a family, but a new kind of family. One where my peace was no longer on the negotiating table. Later, after the others had left, my doorbell rang. A young woman, Juliana, one of the first entrepreneurs from the mentorship foundation I'd started, stood on my doorstep, clutching a laptop. "Fiona, I am so sorry to bother you on your birthday," she said, her eyes wide with panic. "But my father, he wants to invest in my company, and he wants a controlling share. He says I owe him for my college education. I don't know what to do." I smiled, a deep, knowing smile. I opened the door wider. "Come in, Juliana," I said, guiding her to the kitchen. "Let's get you a cup of coffee. You and I have a lot to talk about. The first thing you need to learn is that love and obligation are two very different currencies. As I sat down with her, ready to pass on the hard-won lessons, I glanced at the single slice of leftover cake. Arthur caught my eye from the living room and smiled. That lonely night at the Everest Grill hadn't been an ending. It had been a beginning. It wasn't the night my family abandoned me. It was the night I finally started choosing myself. And in doing so, I'd found a family that chose me right back. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.